What is a ground loop? And where does it come from? Hi guys, I'm here in the control room at LBA recording studio, and I just finished mixing an album for a band called the Electra Kings. Real cool sci-fi surf rock band, instrumental group, very talented cats. If you get the chance, check them out. I said something to the guitar player, Danny, about ground loops when he was in here, and he said something in response to the extent that he didn't quite understand about ground loops, didn't know much about that, and I realized at that moment that's actually the case for most musicians. I don't think I really ever was taught properly, and I figured it out by chance over time. Thankfully, that was a long time ago, but I remember it was very, very difficult for me. I was struggling to figure out what was this noise I was hearing. Zap, 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 real sporadic, random zap sound in the background. I realized over time that that's actually the sound of a ground loop. So if you're not familiar with the ground loop too much, really all it is just more than one path to ground. I'll try to explain it with some of this rack equipment real quick. You can easily encounter a ground loop with rack equipment because they all share a common rack rail, or two rails. And those rails, metal, you're using metal screws, the cases are all metal, so you're creating an electrical path between all of the cases, all of the enclosures. Each piece of equipment has its own path to ground through its own power cable. So when you then connect them all together electrically with the rack rails, you're creating a path from this unit to ground through its power cable, but also through the rack rail into this unit, and then through that power cable, and then so on through all of the pieces. If you're running an audio signal through multiple pieces of equipment, it'll pick up that ground loop. And depending on how many pieces of equipment you're running, that ground loop could be compounded and could become pretty obvious, actually. So it's a background sound, as I said, and if you're a noise purist like I am, you're going to probably hear it and want to get rid of it. The solution is surprisingly simple. This is one of those miracle times where a real simple solution actually works perfectly. It's inexpensive. They're called the Humphries. They're little rack isolation lugs. They're plastic tabs that wrap around the hole so that the piece of equipment is not touching the rack rail at all. And then there's a little shaft that goes down that the screw goes into so that that's also isolated. It's fully isolating each piece of rack equipment from the rack rail so that it doesn't touch another piece of equipment or share any common electrical path through the chassis or through the rail. This works perfectly at eliminating that ground loop noise, that zap, zap, zap. It's totally gone now. So if you encounter that with your pro sound rig or your recording studio, especially if you're using rack gear, that's how you do it. You got to isolate the pieces of equipment from each other. That's really all I wanted to share with you. So I hope you were able to get a little something out of that. So have a great weekend, guys. Bye.